Hello and welcome to Chandwell's Big Bradford Cathedral Push Day 4. Today is Thursday the 24th of July. I'm in the process of making the front porch, and before I share some big, disappointing, dramatic news, let me just show you what I'm doing. There's another two 45-degree buttresses on this porch, but unlike the one yesterday, which went up and out of the top so I could just join it in between the two walls, this one actually ends partway up the front wall like that. So I'm having to use a technique that a couple of you have already suggested that I could use, so thank you for that, of pasting together 5 half-millimeter pieces of card, each one a slightly different width, so that there is essentially a groove in the middle. Now, working with card this thin, this small, has been an absolute nightmare. Bit of a challenge getting it all straight and everything. However, I think that should make a nice 45-degree buttress on the porch. So I'll get the porch finished, and then I'm going to share some news of quite a dramatic mistake that I made 2 days ago, and which is going to require some serious surgery to the cathedral. I've used an actual photo of the real front door and just cut out the glazed bits and then gone around the paper edges with a brown pen. It's really, really fragile, but I think it's worked quite well. That will go on top of some acetate, and then this bit, which is the real door's door frame, will go on top. It'll be really, really subtle, but it will just give that lovely 3D effect once it's done. I never buy acetate, I just reuse food packaging. This is a box lid from something, I don't know what, it's been in my cupboard for about 4 years. But anyway, I'll cut this bit off and glue the door to it. There we go, one porch. That didn't take long. That took 2.5 hours from drawing through to almost completion. Obviously it needs its roof on. A couple of things. I've made the 45-degree buttresses, although they've worked really well, they're a little bit on the big side, which means that you can't really tell that the inside walls are recessed from the outer one, which was a bit of a waste of time. But I think it looks fine. Once that is on the cathedral, it'll look absolutely awesome. So that is essentially the look of the north side of the cathedral, more or less done. So you might have heard me earlier talk about a big mistake. What have I done? Well, it's all to do with this porch. So if you remember 2 days ago, Tuesday, when I was working on the aisle, I said that I brought in the plan of the porch and dropped it onto the building. Now, I know that I've got the overall dimensions correct because we counted the number of crenellations. So each bay of the aisle is the correct size. In the real building, the window connects directly to the side of the porch. There's no gap there at all. And there's quite a big gap between the window, the downspout, and the buttress. I had a big-ish gap between the downspout, between the window and the downspout, but it wasn't a lot. And I did notice this as I was drawing it, but I didn't really pay it much attention because I took the drawing of the porch from my plan and I consulted my notes, so I knew exactly how wide it was. So it must have just been one of those things. I kind of ignored it. However, when I came to draw the porch yesterday, I've realised I've done a stupid thing. Onto here, I've dropped the south porch, and the south porch is 0.5 metre wider than the north porch. So I should have dropped in the north porch, which is significantly smaller than the south porch. So what I've ended up with is a gap between the porch, which butts up against the buttress. So you can see that the porch is right up against the buttress on this picture, but it's also right up against the window on this one. So what I've done is I'm going to end up with a gap between the porch and the window, and that gap is 6mm. So there's a 6mm gap there. Now, if we look at it here, I've moved this window along a little bit. But what am I going to do? So if this was going to be Chandwell Cathedral or Chandwell Parish Church, whatever it might have been, I'd have just left that. And to be perfectly honest, most people looking at this will recognise it as Bradford Cathedral, and they won't focus on this window here being 6mm too far to the right. However, I wanted this to be as accurate as possible, and I know there's lots of inaccuracies and mistakes in it already, but this one's just one too much to live with, I think. That window needs to touch that wall there, and it doesn't. It's way over, and it's too close to this buttress here. So this window needs to move 6mm that way. So the question is, am I going to do it? Can I do it? Well, there's going to be a buttress down here and a buttress down here, and those buttresses will hide any join that I have to make. So what I'm thinking is, because there's no supports down there, if I can get a knife and cut down there and down there, I can then put this panel back in again with the window in the correct way. Now it's risky because I don't want to damage this or this, and this is fairly sturdy in there. So if I go a bit wonky, I'm going to have a slash or something in the walls. If I completely cock it up, it's going to mean, the whole thing might need to be done again. So I'm going to have a break now, and I'm going to think about it whilst I'm having a break. But at the moment, I think it's going to be a cut down there, a cut down there, new panel in, and 2 buttresses to hide the joins. You've only got about an hour to make any comments if you think that it's a terrible idea, or if you think I should do it. I'm always happy to hear your opinions on these things. So until this afternoon then, that's where we are. Bye for now.